The Vergas Show is brought to you by Spanky's Stone Hearth, casual fine dining on the shores of beautiful Rose Lake.
With 2 locations in Vergas and Perham, make the right call. Call Hanson's, the most trusted name in plumbing and heating.
Vergas State Bank, your locally owned full-service bank.
Hi, welcome to the Vergas Show. I'm Sherry Hanson. Thanks for joining me today. I have Tom Franklin with me today. We're continuing and actually finishing up our veteran series, and so hopefully you've gotten a chance to see. We had Ron Franklin, who was had served during the time of the Vietnam War, and Ron is actually your uncle, isn't he, Tom?
Yep,
yeah,
great.
And then we had from the World War II era, we had Alwyn Martinson and Bob Lamb. Today, Tom Franklin is here with us, and Tom, you served Gulf War and Iraq War.
Yep.
Yes.
So I joined when I was 19, and I was trying to think, why did I join? But I just think I was a wayward youth looking for adventure.
Maybe the parents said, "Go do this."
No, I don't. I mean, I did, just like what are you going to do? You're going to go to college. You're going to do this. So I joined the Minnesota National Guard. And I was 19, and I got hooked up with an engineering unit. And the engineering unit that I was with is the 142nd Engineers out of Camp Ripley. Okay. Our battalion was out of Fargo, North Dakota. But an engineering unit that we had heavy equipment, and they had electricians and plumbers. We had welders, carpenters, and we were able to go, to war. We went overseas training many times.
So when you had a unit like this, and like you said, you had carpenters and plumbers and heavy equipment, so that whole unit, when they needed something done, you would go?
If it was sometimes if it was a specific mission, they might not bring one entity, if it was an overseas training, but most of the time the whole company went. So I was on, I think, 11 overseas trainings in 20 years. I went to Central America many times. I went to Korea. I was in Norway. I went to Alaska. I even built a fence. If you believe this, we were doing helping our border security on the Mexican, New Mexico border. And they said, "Can you guys come down and help our border agents just build a road so we can patrol this fence?" And then some of our guys were actually trying to put some auto stops up. They had a lot of drug trafficking coming across. Sure. Mm-hmm. And since they took out the fence, I took a chunk home, and I actually brought it in my garage. And we have a fence just north of town, and I'm thinking, Dad, this is what's on the Mexican border. This is crazy. Same thing. So I was able to, in 20 years, go many, many places. It was quite interesting.
So if you were to say what the general purpose of the National Guard is, what would you say?
Well, defending our freedom. Mm-hmm. The thing is, with the National Guard, I got 7 activations from snow removal, flood. I was at the Moorhead in 1997. We got activated, hauled snow. I remember snow drifts as high as a 2-story house in Sabin, Minnesota. Mm-hmm. They couldn't keep up, so they said, "Can you guys help us do something? This is snow." And we couldn't even keep up. I mean, there was just trucks hauling like crazy. Then we went on to the flood, and we went, from Moorhead all the way up Pearly, Grand Forks, and that was sad because a lot of times, even though you're there, you're not winning. No. Here, come help us. In Roseau, Minnesota, it was like in June, they had a bad flood, and they called us up there. Same thing. I mean, it was just a bad deal. But we tried as what we can do, but you're not winning. No. We're whatever. We went to Holly tree removal. They got hit, I think, 95, a bad storm. I went to Brainerd on a same thing. A lot of times at the end of our unit, or at the end of our weekend, they'd have us load our equipment, get it all fueled in case there was a tornado in some town, and we would get called. Monticello, Brainerd, Holly. And that happened quite often. Well,
and you hear that, calling out the National Guard. I mean, I think there's something, when it gets to that point, there's a peace from knowing that the National Guard's coming.
They need more help. Now, is the National Guard trained in law enforcement or stuff like that? That's not going to happen. But they still have a presence, and they have a resource that they can call on. But that is not their main job. Okay. But our main job was heavy equipment. So when they said, "Hey, can you guys come do storm removal?" Sure, we can come, because we had equipment, we had our trucks. Okay. So they also would send us overseas to build roads, like I said, in Panama, Honduras. So that was kind of fun. They'd send us in January. They say, hey, for 2 weeks you're going to
go to
Panama. So here in Panama, or not in Panama, but in Costa Rica, we were panning for gold. Rich coast, that's what it means, rich coast. So I went to town, and as some of our soldiers did, and they had this gold pan made, and we'd all sit there and we'd on our breaks or after the shift, we'd go try to find some gold. So this is one of the things that I kept. And
that's really cool.
Yeah,
I mean, and like you say, you got the fence, you got this, you brought back, just a lot of fun things from that. Did you find any gold?
We found some, not a lot. I thought, and some of our sergeants really got, we're going to get rich. I want to come back down here. And I just did it kind of for a souvenir. But really, Costa Rica, rich coast, there's gold everywhere.
Everywhere, huh? You were in Honduras, and you have a picture of being in Honduras.
I do.
And that we'll show, but it's, tell me about the golf course there. I mean,
that's not in Honduras.
No.
That was in Korea.
Oh, that's in Korea.
Because they sent us to Korea, so I was there twice, and both times that we were building a shooting range. One was very close to the DMZ, but right on the DMZ, there's a small golf course, and it's a par 3, but there's landmines on each side of it, because the DMZ is an active war zone still. North Korea and South Korea have not ever shook hands and quit fighting. So,
right.
But you'll see a photograph of that if you can get it on.
Yeah.
So that's kind of neat.
So of the countries that you went to, tell me a little bit about what was maybe your favorite.
I think the favorite trip was Norway. I got to go on a winter training in Norway. I have relatives there.
Okay.
So when I was there training, on a weekend, I got to go spend time with them.
Nice.
And the interesting thing there was in 1940, German troops invaded Norway, and they just took over just like a blink of an eye. And the dad remembers the German soldiers being in their home. They lived there. They said, we're taking this over. Your family can stay in that side of the farmhouse, and our soldiers are going to stay here. And he was just 4 years old at the time, but he remembered the German soldiers bringing him candy, he told me. And the Norwegians have a very strong, they remember the war.
Oh,
they are not forgetting it.
No.
It's not every day that you show up and somebody has just taken over your country.
So what was the purpose of the National Guard in Norway?
It was like the Minnesota National Guard would go to Norway and just learn how to use their weapons, how they trained, how they skied, and their soldiers would come to Camp Ripley, and they still do this now, and they use our equipment, and they look at how our equipment is, and their clothing is like wool.
Oh, sure.
So we dress like Norwegian soldiers, but I tell you, their stuff is warmer than our stuff.
Okay, you have a picture here, even though your whole unit, and that's the one that was over in Norway. And, and
we skied and skied and skied.
And that's how you would get around?
Up in the mountains, skiing. I don't know how practical it is today with today's technology. This was kind of like World War II tactics.
Sure.
But just being outside, functioning in a cold weather environment is what you have to do. So
Tom, you were in for how long?
I was in for 20 years. And I was deployed twice to a war zone. I went to the first Gulf War when I was 1991. And then in 2003, I went back to Iraq again for another go here.
Yeah, and you had an interesting story on that, and I want to talk a little bit about that some more, Tom. But we're going to wrap up today, and then I want everyone to stay tuned. Tom will be on again next week, and we'll be wrapping up our Veterans Series. If we don't say it enough, I think one of the things that came out of it last with the interviews with the guys from the World War II, it's so often we forget to thank our veterans and thank our guys that are in service. And so I want to take that opportunity now. Thank you. And you stay tuned. You'll see Tom next week again, and we'll tell you a little bit more about his service with the National Guard. You have a good day in Vergas.